on NPI.
Hi, on NPI, brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. Thank you so much, DigiKey. Every single week, Leadiator uses their powers of engineering to introduce new products. That's right. NPI stands for New Product Introduction. This week, it's from
XP Power. We've got, we haven't
what's
featured this company
I don't know
yet.
if this is going to work.
Yeah.
Oh, so close. Wait. Come over.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Totally did not work. Oh, you know why? Here. Let's go back to this.
Okay.
Why don't you talk about them while I fix it?
Okay. So we haven't actually covered XP Power yet, but I liked their little pick and placeable modules that we're going to talk about today. So let's go to that. So we're going to talk about the PBT02F series of pick and placeable isolated power supply DC-DC converters. It's kind of cool because I think we talked about a couple weeks ago power over Ethernet, and I mentioned like, oh, you often want to have isolated power over Ethernet, and often you want to convert the 48 volts to some other voltage, and so that's why you might want something like the PBT02F series. So these are little modules, and what's neat about them is we've covered through-hole solderable or pick and placeable DC-DC converters before, from various companies. But what I thought was really interesting about this one is it listens to Joy Division. No,
what?
it's isolated. This is an isolated power supply.
That was the theme. That should have been
isolation. Yeah. And that's unusual because usually these little pick and place modules are just simple like DC-DC with an inductor. So why would you want isolation? Well, like I mentioned, sometimes you're dealing with a system where you're getting voltages coming in and maybe the ground is floating a little bit above what earth ground is. You don't want to have a fight between the two different grounds. For safety, for medical or industrial uses, there's oftentimes you have to make sure that, especially if you have like a EKG system, something that's connected to a person, there is no way possible for a high voltage to get to them. So you want to have like air isolation. For noise reduction, for dealing with multiple different power supplies, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to have an isolated power supply, so one that's small. So we've covered buck boost, buck converters, boost converters before. And what's interesting about these modules is some of them are buck and some are boost, and some of them are kind of like buck boost. They kind of have a linear regulator or some intermediate regulator to convert 5 volts into 5 volts out. And we've also covered isolation chips for buses like I2C, like this is the ISO 1541 or 1540. It's an I2C isolator. And these use simple, magnetic or opto isolation. People who do stuff with MIDI, are familiar with opto isolators. It's a way of having data transfer without power just because you want the signal. But again, you don't want ground loops or audio feedback loops between all your equipment, sending, especially over long MIDI cables, where you might have like a noise coming in through the cables and antenna, and so you use opto isolation. But these are only good for signal, right? Opto isolators and other, low power, they don't transfer power, they just transfer signal. You still have to power the other side. The only way to really get power isolation and transference is through a transformer like this one. We have 2 coils and then a magnetic core in the center, and you put AC in one side and you get AC on the other side. That's the thing. It has to be AC, it can't be DC. And so, because of that, you kind of are forced, even if it is like linear 5 volts in, 5 volts out, you must convert that 5 volts DC into AC and then do the isolation and then back down to DC. And so, the format that's often used is a form of the buck boost topology, but instead of a simple inductor, you use a transformer, and it's called an isolated flyback. You can read all about it. But that's basically, the kind of technology that's in these. They're good for a couple watts. One thing to note is, there's a lot of different varieties. You see the input voltage can be 3, 5, 12, 15, or 24 volts, and then output voltages can be, sometimes they're buck, sometimes they're boost, and sometimes they're right in the middle. They also have those split supplies at the bottom, the plus minus 15, which I thought was kind of interesting. You'll note that there isn't a lot of current output, right? Like especially if you're doing the split supply or you're doing boosting, you're not going to get a ton of current, maybe 100, 200, maybe at max here looks like 600 milliamps. And the efficiency is also not going to be as good as your non-isolated transformer, right? Those are always going to get you like 90+%. Here it's like 70 to 80, maybe 85. Buck converters are going to give you pretty good efficiency, but you're just going to have lossage due to that transformer. One nice thing about transformers that I thought was kind of cute that they took advantage of is if you have a transformer that, and you're using it as an AC isolation, you can easily convert an input voltage into a split output by having a center tap. And that's what they did for those bottom plus minus 9 volt outputs, right? If you want a split supply, often used for like, medical or industrial uses. And I also like how compact this is. I think like I asked, my Claude AI, like, what is it about the size? And it was like an espresso covered coffee bean. So, if you want something as small as an espresso covered coffee bean that gives you isolated
Really?
buck boost or
That
buck
was the measurement?
Yeah, I think I asked. So
that's
I asked
cool.
it for food, and it was like a espresso.
Wow. Do you think that's right?
I think it is about right. It's like a little bit. It's like a half an inch by a half an inch by a quarter inch or something. Pick and placeable, very compact, and they're in stock at DigiKey right now for immediate order. So if you, I think there's somebody out there who's like, oh man, I really need, isolated power supply, convert voltages, regulated output. And it's like, I don't have to do a lot of work. I just pick and place this on and my power supply solution is ready to go. So
Okay.
it's in stock at DigiKey. Pick it up.
Let's have you over here and let's see what happens when we do this time.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
That's
yeah,
NPI?
I'm doing a multi thing here so we can have like a stage and a stage.
Yeah.
See y'all next week. Thanks for coming by on NPI.
On NPI.